My dear friends, I am taking first question of K6001, that is interpretation of statutes. My dear friends, this is a very important question. Now, meaning of interpretation of statutes. Interpretation of the statutes is a process by which the meaning of a particular legislation can be ascertained. Next, the determination of the fact that particular case or state of the facts presented before the interpreter falls within the particular statute or not can be ascertained through interpretation. My dear friend, this is the meaning, or you can say definition of interpretation of the statutes. Now, I want to make it more clear, this definition. If the language of a statute is clear and unambiguous, then there is no need of interpretation. This is the most important point. If the language is clear and unambiguous, unambiguous means two or three meaning of the language. If the language gives one meaning or language is clear, then there is no need of interpretation. Second point, if the language of a statute is not clear and ambiguous, then there is a need of interpretation. Second point, see here, if the language is not clear and ambiguous, it means language gives two meaning or more than two meaning, then there is a need of interpretation. So these 2 points are most important point. So my dear friends, in the definition you have seen that the language must be clear of a statute or enactment. So to make it more clear, I want to give some more points about this definition. First point, the interpretation of a statute is a process by which the intention of the legislature can be ascertained. This is the first point. Second point, such intention can be traced through medium of authoritative form in which such intention has been expressed by the legislature. Third point, normally the word used in a statute should be given their ordinary and natural meaning so that its literal and grammatical form may not be changed. This is the third point. My dear friends, I am giving you the fourth points. These points are very essential to know the meaning of interpretation. Now, fourth point, the words used in a particular enactment generally contain two forms. First, literal form. Second, grammatical form. These two forms provide ordinary and natural meaning in a statute. My dear friends, in a language there are two forms, literal form or grammatical form. Literal form means wording, and grammatical form means grammatically language should be correct. Fifth point, the part of a law itself constituted from the very words used in statute. The construction of the language used in a particular statute should normally be construed only in grammatical sense. Sixth point, the phraseology of an enactment, so long as it is clear or unambiguous, needs no interpretation. Again, this is the point which I have told you before. No one can modify the language of a statute simply to bring the same in accordance with one's view for determining its reasonableness and rightness. Seventh point, the only thing which can be done to find out the real intention of the legislature in a statute is that the words used in must be looked into their real sense. This is a most important point, my dear friends. In interpretation, we have to find out the intention of the legislator. What is the intention of legislature? This is very important to find out in a statute. Eighth point, any hypothetical construction cannot be accepted simply on the ground that it is more consistent with the alleged object of the statute. My dear friends, these are the 8 points. With the help of these 8 points, the definition or meaning of interpretation of statute is clear. So, I want to give some views of the jurist. What jurist has said. First, according to J. Park, the courts can do interpretation of a statute to language of which contains more than one meaning. Understand this point. Again, this point is repeated here. The court can do interpretation of a statute. He says the court can do interpretation of a statute to a language of which contain more than one meaning. It is one of the most important steps for the interpretation of a statute to look into the real sense of word and language which is used in a particular statute. The rule of construction is to find out the intention of the legislature in a particular statute. These are the views of J. Park, a jurist, famous jurist, eminent jurist. Now, second eminent jurist, according to Lord Brougham, the construction of act must be taken from the bare words of the act. See here, we cannot fish out what possible may have been the intention of the legislature. We cannot aid legislature's defective phrasing of an act. We cannot add and amend and by constructs make of deficiency which are left there. My dear friends, Lord Brougham says there is no right to change the language and wording of the statute. It must remain as it is given by the legislature. We have to find out the real meaning of the word. We have to find out the real meaning of the language. And then or it means the court have to apply that statute when the language is clear and wording is clear. So, my dear friends, this is the need of the interpretation of the statutes because some statutes are clear. The language of some statutes is clear, but the language of some statute is not clear. Then there is a need of interpretation of that statute. But the interpretation must be according to the legislature intention. There must be no change in the structure of the language or in the construction of the language of the statute. So, my dear friends, I think the concept of interpretation of statute is clear to you. So, in last, I want to make a request to my friends. Subscribe the channel. I shall be very thankful to you. The name of my channel is Maths by Dharamveer Singh Dabas. Again, thanks to you.